All right, so could you repeat the first question?
Absolutely, I can do that. So here's the question again. Considering that the Israelites experienced all those incredible miracles and still struggled with unbelief, what does that suggest about the role of faith and obedience for us as believers today?
But the story of the Israelites tells us that despite experiencing God's miracles and grace, we may still fall into sin. That's the essence of the lesson we could derive from the story of the Israelites. So we must do everything we could to avoid sinning, and to do so, we must receive the message with fear and trembling, the reverent fear of being disqualified from heaven.
Exactly. That's a great takeaway. It really does show that seeing miracles or having spiritual experiences doesn't automatically guarantee you that someone will stay faithful or obedient. It seems like the heart of the matter is that ongoing, reverent attitude, taking God's word seriously and letting that holy fear motivate us to obey. So, yeah, I think that's a really insightful reflection. Let's keep diving deeper from there.
All right, so make one more question regarding the passage.
Absolutely. Let's keep going. Since we've touched on how reverent fear leads to obedience, here's another question for you. How do you think we can practically cultivate that kind of reverent fear and consistent obedience in our daily lives, especially in a world that often doesn't emphasize those values?
I believe that we can harbor a reverent fear of being disqualified from heaven by reflecting on the biblical stories, because the Bible has recorded the ends of each individual, both those who entered heaven and those who were condemned to hell. So remembering the eternal consequences they faced in the Bible, those mentioned in the Bible, we can reflect on our own end and avoid sinning.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. By really immersing ourselves in those biblical accounts and keeping that eternal perspective in mind, we're essentially training our hearts to stay sensitive and responsive. It's like we're letting those stories become a mirror for our own lives, helping us remember what's at stake and why obedience really matters. So, yeah, it's all about that constant reflection and letting those lessons shape how we live day by day. Thanks for diving into that
So
with me.
the story of the Israelites tells us that despite experiencing God's miracles and grace, we may still fall into sin. That's the